The story of Betty Brown, the 91-year-old former postmistress from County Durham, has been mentioned a few times in the press. She was once celebrated as the golden girl of the post office and now reduced to fighting for justice against an institution that betrayed her. So the question is, why is it not enough to finally be heard? For people like Betty, acknowledgement without action is hollow. Betty's losses, over £100,000 worth of life savings, were stolen by a system that the government and the post office knew was, from the outset, was broken. And the government and the post office seem content with what can only be described as a conspiracy of nastiness. Language has been wielded like a weapon to silence those who have frankly suffered enough. It's not just bureaucracy gone rogue, it's institutional cruelty. And three things are necessary to address this wrong. Restitution, which means restoring the money that somebody has stolen, in this case the post office. Compensation, which means giving people an amount of money to offset the pain and the distress and the time. And accountability, which means holding people responsible and, if necessary, putting them in prison. Restitution means every single penny. Compensation goes further. It addresses the pain, the time wasted, the careers destroyed. But compensation without accountability is no justice at all. Those who knowingly perpetuated this injustice, from senior post office officials to Fujitsu executives and politicians, must be held responsible. Instead, we see the government hiding behind mealy-mouthed formulas. They speak of compensation in vague, catch-all terms designed to cheat people out of their rights. The approach is neither fair nor ethical. It is justice in name only, and worse, it is conniving with post office management to perpetuate harm. The language employed is nothing but the pilfering palaver of persiflage and parablepsis, verbose nonsense designed to obscure the truth. Take Betty Brown's case. Here is a woman who, with her late husband, gave decades of loyal service to the post office, and when the faulty Horizon IT system showed spurious deficits, they paid from their own savings over £50,000 initially and £100,000 in total, because, as Betty puts it, it is my responsibility to balance the balance sheet. And when she sought fair redress, she was offered a paltry 29% of her claim. I don't normally like rhetorical questions, but is this justice? Is this the Christmas goodwill that the government so eagerly proclaims? Betty thinks not, and nor should we. She calls it highway robbery, and so should we. She is right. It's an insult to her and to the 554 victims of the Horizon scandal, and to every taxpayer funding this farce. Consider also the human cost. Betty's husband, Oswald, died heartbroken, asking in his final days any word from the post office, and Betty herself endured sleepless nights, her teeth chattering from stress, sheets bitten between her teeth to keep herself calm. And the betrayal didn't end when they sold their post office in 2003 at a knock-down price. It continues today in the delays, the denials, the dismissals. The government claims to be paying out faster than ever before, citing £438 million disbursed across 4 schemes. But I'm afraid that word in there rather sums it up: a scheme. What does speed matter when justice is incomplete and victims like Betty are still waiting? The lawyers, the forensic accountants, the panels that the government employs are engaged in a cynical game to make money for themselves, to maximise delay, to minimise payouts. Betty's experience makes it clear. This is a system designed to wear down its victims, not to uplift them. In her words, I would like them to see and go through what I've gone through. Betty wants accountability not just for the failures of Horizon, but for the culture of indifference that allowed this injustice to flourish. Fujitsu, the post office, the government, they all bear direct responsibility, yet we see executives keeping their bonuses and their £2 million homes, while Betty fights for a fraction of what she is owed. And this is not just about Betty. It's about the wider failure of ethics and governance. Restitution and compensation are different words, and playing games to join them together is outrageous. And playing games to avoid accountability is outrageous. without accountability, without compensation, without restitution, we are condoning a system that punishes the innocent simply to protect the powerful. Betty Brown is 91 years old. She has waited long enough. She has waited in a queue with people who have infected blood, with people who came on to our country by invitation on Windrush, with people like Andrew Malkinson, who spent years in prison for a crime he never committed, like people who lived in the Grenfell Towers. The time for cheap wordplay, for persiflage, is over. The time for action is now.